We have here with us Jerry Mcghee from Lakeland, Florida, and his nephew
Ryan Mcghee.
Ryan Mcghee from,
I guess, Richmond, Virginia now. Now I have to say Richmond. Originally Oklahoma City, but now Richmond, Virginia.
Richmond, Virginia, Lakeland, Florida. Jerry, you make some of the best boards in the hobby of electric football.
Oh, thank you.
Tell us how you do it. When did you start?
I started in 1998 building fields, but before that, it's all his fault that I even got back into this hobby. So it was 1996. I was up home visiting my parents on a rainy day, and there was a tropical storm or something.
Something like that, yeah.
It was a lot of rain.
That was just down the street in Prince George, Virginia.
Yes, it was. And we're in Richmond here, so, but I mean, it was probably 30 minutes down the road. And my mother said, Jerry, why don't you go up in the attic and pull down your old electric football game board? And Ryan, who was 12 at the time, said, what is electric football? And I said, it's the best game that was ever invented. And he said, I don't believe you. And I said, no, it's way better than video games. And he goes, that is impossible. And I said, no, really, it's great. So we pull it down, and I got all my teams out, and we had this epic tournament with my 1970s electric football men right there, you know. And anyway, the internet was kind of new in 1996, and Ryan was a little bit more tech savvy than I was. And so he goes back to Oklahoma City. Well, right before he leaves, my mom says, why don't you give Ryan your electric football stuff? I was like, are you crazy? I think I want my electric football stuff. So I forgot how fun this was. And so I was 30 years old. And so anyway, Ryan goes back to Oklahoma City, and he calls me up on the phone one day. He says, hey, Uncle Jerry, I found that they make electric football still. And it's with a company called Mcghee. And I was like, no way. He goes, yeah, they have a website. And I was like, what's a website?
Yeah.
And so he gave me the instructions, http://www.mcghee. He had to break it down into simple letters for me.
Right.
But I got there, and then I learned about the chat board, and then I got to talking with other people like Doc Mcghee and Lynn and Mark Klingbeil and just all these guys, and you know, I was just blown away that there were people out there still playing electric football. I was just like, I thought it'd gone the way of the dinosaur, you know. And so anyway, Ryan starts chatting it up with guys on the forums, and then I start chatting it up with guys on the forums, and then, you know, next thing you know, I was like, there's got to be a way to make this game better, man. Because I fly radio-controlled airplanes that are scale.
Okay.
And I like scale. I really do. And what always bothered me about electric football was that if you scaled out the men to the 620 board,
right,
they're like 12 or 15 feet tall.
Right.
And I was like, you know, that always kind of bothered me. And I was like, well, I know how to build airplanes. And this can't be that hard to build an electric football field to scale with these players. And so I had to sit there and figure out how to make these things scale, and then you know, what's a usable scale. And so I came up with 1/2 inch equals 1 yard, because I'm 6 feet tall and I'm essentially 2 yards long.
Right.
And if you look at the one Fab 5 pose of the guy that goes like this, that's standing, you know, mostly straight, I was like, okay, well, that's me.
Right, the Haiti Repo defensive back is the tallest figure in the hobby.
Yeah. So I said, okay, well, that's me. That is me playing football.
Okay.
So I figured out how, you know, I ordered an NFL yearbook off this new thing called the internet. An NFL rule book, and I looked to see what the scale dimensions of an actual football field.
Right.
And so anyway, I went to East Carolina University. I graduated from there in 1991, and so behind you is the East Carolina Pirate football field, which is the first game board that I ever tried to build.
Okay.
But it's 18 years old now, and it's still going strong. It's been through several modifications, but it's strong, and it's a good field to play on. But this field behind me is Virginia Tech field. This is the second board that I ever built, and this was a Christmas present for Ryan. So, and then Ryan would play, and anytime we'd get to Oklahoma, we'd play, and we had the Mcghee Bowl, and we had a trophy that would travel. And
Played in the basement in San Antonio a couple times.
yes. And anyway, every time we'd get together, it'd be in the Mcghee Bowl, and it, you'd have to bring the trophy, and then sometimes he would have to win.
So have to win, yeah. I like how you put that. It was my turn to win.
So on an average, your boards are about 6 feet long, correct?
Yeah, they're 68 inches long, which is 4 inches shy of 6 feet. So
Okay, so 68 inches, that's right. 72 is
6 feet.
would be 6 feet. That's right. Yeah, we've tested some of these boards during our setup earlier today, and I gotta tell you, they all run great.
Well, thank you.
One would think, a board this size, how do you distribute vibration evenly across them without having dead spots? And from what I've seen assembling these boards with you, you got 2 motors, one at about each 20-yard line?
Yeah, about on the 30-yard line.
About 30-yard line, okay. And you distribute vibration via the screws that are...
No, there's no screws. So this is the actual motor is it's an electromagnet, and so this one is probably about that big around.
Okay.
And if this is the underside of the field and this is the top of the motor,
Right.
I want about a 1/4 of an inch to an 1/8 inch gap between the motor and the sheet metal.
Okay.
So when that electromagnet comes on and it wants to pull that field towards the magnet,
Right.
and then it can't, and it starts to vibrate.
Okay, that's how you distribute the vibration.
Yeah. And so it vibrates and not oscillates. And then
Okay.
so the vibration goes through the board, and then the prongs, if you actually look at an electric football figure in slow motion, they actually jump up and down. They're
Right.
actually, as they move across the field, they're kind of hopping. But so the better and the more concentrated vibration, the less you'll see them
Right.
jumping. And I got to credit George Diamond with these motors, because he worked with APW company to make these electromagnets. And
Okay.
they once I found out that George was using those, I said, well, I've always been looking for a good electromagnet for my fields, because I think it's more traditional. And so George Diamond worked with APW company. They came up with this electromagnet, the 6044 IM stack, or whatever they call it. Item number 6044 on your APW magnet. $15.99. $13.99 if you don't get the plug on the end of it. So.
Right.
Anyway, and I don't do this as a business. I do this just as a hobby to recreate and kind of make my brain turn off. And so the what was I talking
I think we were to 1999 in your story.
All right.
We had only made it about 3 years in 10
okay.
minutes, so that's
All right.
not good.
Well, no, I jumped to George. George was about 1998. No, he was about 2008. So George is good. So anyway, so when George worked with APW, got this electromagnet. That's when I started putting it on here, and then the MFCA kind of came on board, and then by 2012 we started the TOC, the Tournament of Champions. And with this electromagnet, what I had been using them on my fields for so many years, and I always wanted to host my own tournament. And so I was just blown away with the performance of this electromagnet, and I was like, well, now that this electromagnet exists, I can I can host a tournament. But then the TOC came online, and that just opened the door for everything, because then you had a concept of one rule set that was modifiable, and then you had just this incredible amount of competitive coaches across the country that would come and compete and come together, and just the camaraderie that you build with these guys. And I mean, my gosh, I mean, we know about each other's kids, we know about each other's divorces, about marriages, about deaths, about these are lifelong friendships. And so, to be able to put all this together, and this is our pursuit of happiness. So it's our constitutional right to pursue happiness. You just have to catch it yourself. So this is, it's all Ryan's fault that this happened. So
I take all the blame. And it's been a long time since I've played, and it's really fun getting to come out here and see where the technology has gone and see how it's really grown. I remember one thing that Jerry told me when we first started playing back in the late 90s. He said, something from your childhood will eventually save you. And that's probably his case with electric football. And I'm in my early 30s now, and it's not too late for me to get back in. One of these days, when I have enough time and enough space at the house, I'm sure I will, because it's something that I did really enjoy playing with him when I was a kid. And the main hobby I have now is this sport called curling. It's the one on the ice that you see during the Olympics. And a lot of the things that Jerry's been talking about that interested me about electric football is what has interested me about curling, and that's the technology and the way things work and the way things move. And then on top of that, all the camaraderie. It's a very social sport, just like this is a very social game. So while I haven't played in a really long time, I have no doubt that someday I might get back into it, because as Jerry told me so many times, something from your childhood will eventually save you.
I didn't realize that was so impactful.
Well, thanks a lot, Jerry.
Hey, you're welcome. Thanks for helping me.
Thanks for all that you do for the hobby. And we still got more work to do. We got power chords, and we got a police.
There's
and,
a lot of boards to take care of.
Yes, it is.